Colleagues, it's time for us to start our meeting, and we've also formed a quorum. Item 1 on the agenda, confirmation of minutes. The minutes have already been distributed to you. The Secretariat has not received any proposal for amendment. Members, can we have the minutes confirmed? Thank you. Item 2, information papers issued since the last meeting. The clerk issued 3 information papers to you. The details are in the revised agenda issued on the 9th of February. The first one is the administration's response to Dr. Helena Wong's letter dated the 8th of December 2014 on issues relating to the implementation of the pesticide residues in food regulation. The second paper is the submission from Friesland Campina on issues relating to milk formula supply. Paper 709-01. The third paper is the administration's response to Dr. Helena Wong's letter dated the 9th of January regarding the food safety incidents in McDonald's, Japan. That's paper 754-01. On the first and third papers, the administration has already submitted responses to the issues raised. Do we need to follow up? I don't think so. So let's proceed to item 3 on the agenda, date of next meeting and items for discussion. The list of outstanding items has already been issued to you. That is CB bracket 2773-1415 bracket 01, as well as CB bracket 2773-1415 bracket 02, list of follow-up actions. As regards the date of the next meeting, it will be held on the 10th of March, Tuesday, at 2:30 p.m. The administration has proposed 3 items: review on fees and charges for certain services provided by the AFCD. That's item 1 on the list of outstanding items. The second one is report on the food surveillance program for 2014. That's item 2 in the list of outstanding items. And the third item proposes update on the latest development on the supply of public niches and regulation of private columbaria. That's item 3 on the list of outstanding items. This one was actually carried forward from the last meeting. As for the March regular meeting, I'd like to consult you on the items for discussion. On the 13th of January, the last regular meeting, some members proposed to discuss the consultation document on sustainability of the fishing industry, and members asked for a public hearing. If members are to put up the same request today, we can arrange for a suitable time slot for a public hearing or have a discussion with members later. In fact, colleagues, we had a discussion last time. We did not have a public hearing last time. If we were to have another public hearing so soon, I'm a bit worried. Some colleagues were of the view that we should hold the public hearing before the end of the consultation period. I don't quite agree, because today we already have a public hearing on formula products. Maybe we can hold another public hearing in May or June when we have more time. Then we can identify another day for a public hearing, and then we can have an extended meeting if we can find a venue. Do you agree? Well, Mr. Stephen Ho is not here. Very good. Item 4 on the agenda, public consultation on the proposed regulation of nutrition and health claims on formula products and prepackaged food for infants and young children under the age of 36 months in Hong Kong. Clerk, please invite the administration's representatives and the deputations to enter the conference room. In fact, we've invited all other electrical members to attend this meeting for this discussion. The Secretariat has already prepared a background brief for us. That is paper CB bracket 2 568-1415 bracket 05. Deputations are to express their views. The Secretariat received from 29 deputations and individuals responses to the effect that they would attend this meeting, and 9 other deputations and individuals who have submitted written comments but will not attend this meeting. All information papers have already been distributed to members and the administration. As regards the submissions received after noon, 9th of February, they are tabled.
我想請各位
Deputations and individuals who are attending this meeting, you can use your earpiece. Channel 0 is floor. Channel 1 is Cantonese. Channel 2 is English. I'd also like to remind the deputations and individuals attending that when they speak, they are not protected by the Electoral Powers and Privileges Ordinance. Their written submissions do not enjoy the protection either. I'd like to remind them that in this conference room of the electrical complex, whether or not they're attending or sitting in the public gallery, they should take note of the security measures which have already been attached to the invitation letters sent to them by the Secretariat and have also been tabled. Those in the public gallery can also obtain a copy of the guidelines from our security guards. I'll invite the deputations and individuals to speak. I'll also retain sufficient time for members to ask questions and hold discussions. Now I'd like to set the speaking time for each deputation or individual to be 3 minutes. If you've not submitted your written comments, you can do so after the meeting to facilitate members' reference. The first speaker, the Lion Rock Institute, Ms. Ao Chi-Woon. Thank you. About 2.5 years ago, the administration already wanted to stop the consultation on formula products. We would like to have freedom of information. Again, this time, the administration changes the wording and try again. We oppose any policies that damage freedom of information. But this time we feel offended because the mother, that is the woman, should have the right to say. And now this time the administration is saying that no, you can't get the information. The bureau director is a man. In his eyes, women don't have brains. They don't know how to think. But over 50% of our university students are women. and over half of our medical students are women. And he still say that he's acting for our good. He wants to protect us such that he would like to stop us from receiving information. Bureau Director, do you have a mother? If you say, for your good, I don't want you to watch news or receive information, what will be her feeling? Why is it that the government wants to stop information on formula products? We have a commodities description ordinance. We have a batch of people who are like the Taliban. They would like to force the mothers to do breastfeeding, whatever the situation, after delivering a baby. They're just like the Taliban. When mothers don't know there are formula products, they can force the mothers to expose their breast and do breastfeeding. Otherwise, they think it's vicious. What about those mothers who have adopted babies? Are they vicious? And some mothers have diseases. They don't want to pass the diseases to the babies. And some mothers don't have enough milk. Are they vicious? And sometimes after delivery, the mother died. Are these mothers vicious? We hope that the government can shelve the proposal immediately. And the Bureau Director does not have a fetus. And so we don't want the Bureau Director to monopolize the situation or manipulate the situation.
So, well, health is important to the baby and to the mother. The Liberal Party, therefore, basically supports the proposed regulation. I'm not here to talk about the details about in the regulatory system. I just want to talk about the impact on the industry and the enforcement. But this is under the Food and Health Bureau, and they usually would legislate for a series of matters. For example, there was in 2004 a labeling requirement on allergens, and then they have food labeling following that. To the industry, they would like you to think through the matter and introduce the comprehensive legislation, because the industry will have to change the labels time and again. It's costly. And also, as the labeling gets complicated, it's difficult to read. And for this particular system, they want to do it through negative vetting so that the labeling requirement can take effect immediately. But because of the filibustering in this council, the subsidiary legislation has yet to be enacted. And now we have another one. This is about nutrition claims this time. If the industry has to tie in with different matters to safeguard public health and to provide nutrition information. And now the previous one has yet to be fully implemented, and you have a new one introduced into this council. Don't you think that is costly to change the packaging and labeling? Would they shoulder the cost, or would it be passed on to someone else? I believe ultimately the cost will be borne by the consumer. The administration should be aware of this, that legislative proposals should be introduced as a full package, because those affected will be the same group of people, the industry. And it's been said that for the follow-up formula, that is 1 to 3 years old, why do you have to set up a separate category? Why can't you subsume this group into a big one? There are different voices. Some mothers would like to strike a balance. They support breastfeeding, but they also want to make sure that babies can be benefited from the products available. Mr. Tang Wai-yin. Well, I'm a man. I don't have breasts to feed babies, and I don't have a womb, I can't bear any baby. But there are babies for whom both parents are male. Then they have to rely on baby formula to feed the baby. So these products are necessities. My company, Hong Kong Suppliers Association Company Limited, supports some regulation. In the market, there are products which make exaggerating or false claims. Those should be regulated. And I hope the administration will consider the need of the industry. When we sell a product, we need to tell our customer the merits, the advantages of the product. Otherwise, the parents will simply have little to rely on to make a choice. So we want the government to adopt the relax or the optional approach. And then in terms of the grace period, this time if we adopt the more accommodative approach, then there will be grace period for and an application is required, and we need time for the industry to submit an application, the time needed for the administration to consider the application, and then if it's approved, the industry should be given time to change all the publicity materials. And then on top, there should be 1.5 years allowed for clearing the existing stock and other preparation. Mr. Wong Sai-Chan, I have declared my interest. I also own companies selling the baby formula. I'm a parallel goods trader. As I've set out in my submission, I have quoted actual examples in the US and Canada, which allowed claims concerning the beneficial effect of probiotics to soften stool, because they respect freedom of speech. In the U.S., no law is allowed to restrict freedom of expression. That's the First Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. Mr. Secretary, if we impose restrictive requirements on claims, then it may run the risk of violating Article 27. We enjoy various freedoms: organizing unions, freedom of expression, freedom of the press, freedom to take part in assembly and protest. I believe the businesses can take you to court if this goes ahead. Hong Kong is not a place where breastfeeding enjoys a favorable environment. Those who want to promote breastfeeding should not be taking away or trying to take away the freedom enjoyed by suppliers of baby formula. Well, you should ask our big developers to provide the necessary space for breastfeeding, and we should also be fighting for a better maternity leave. Why should you target baby formula suppliers? This is just unjustified. Although we don't have same-sex marriage, but once this is allowed, and then we are going to see babies adopted by same-sex couples. Even for heterosexual couples, they also adopt babies. There's no way they can do breastfeeding. And if they want to buy baby formula, where can they get the information? There are complicated social and legal issues involved in a regulatory system. I hope the regulatory system should be something based on the Canadian or US model. That would be the right balance. Mr. Chang Chi-Yang.
Manufacturer and importer of infant formula from New Zealand, Fonterra strongly supports the protection of breastfeeding and recommendation from the WHO and Codex. We welcome the proposed regulatory framework to enhance the regulation of nutrition and health claims on formula products, post the introduction of Food and Drug Composition and Labeling Law last year. Fonterra supports 5 overarching principles in the proposed regulatory framework and believe that the inclusive approach is the most appropriate method of governing the use of health claims for formula products. We believe such an approach is a fundamental step in protecting the health of infants and young children. There are a number of jurisdictions who recognize the valid role of health claims on formula products and have developed regulatory approaches which could be used as a reference for a claim framework in Hong Kong. Many countries adopt an approach that permits claims via a robust mechanism to evaluate the science in support of a claim. With sufficient scientific substantiation and assessment, the EU, mainland China and Singapore permit the use of claims for products, formula from 6 months old, and Australia, New Zealand Food Standard Code, under certain conditions, allow food claims on products suitable from 12 months old. So Fonterra suggests Hong Kong consider the adoption of the proposed inclusive approach with a supporting mechanism for claims approval and condition of application as a measure of preventing misleading claims. For those babies whose mother have difficulties in breastfeed or need infant formula as a supplement, scientifically endorsed health claims can provide parents with appropriate information to enable them to make informed choice as to which formula to feed their child. An appropriate claims framework will ensure infant and young children to receive the best nutrition appropriate to their needs. We support a regulatory framework which will empower mothers to make the fully informed decision on infant feeding and encourage manufacturers to continue to invest in research and consistently improve the understanding of infant nutrition and improve the products. We welcome the opportunity to work with the government through ongoing dialogue and create an environment that to protect and promote breastfeeding and healthy diets in infant and young children in Hong Kong. Thank you.
下一位係香港天主教母乳育嬰。
Next, we have Ms. Chen Ai-xiang from Hong Kong Catholic Breastfeeding Association. Well, all mothers love their babies, and the mothers would always choose breastfeeding first. But it's something difficult. A lot of perseverance is required. But if since the choice is so difficult and they are bombarded by the unsubstantiated claims, they may easily give up. They may be misled by advertisements that baby formula is better than breastfeeding or mother milk. And even when the baby can eat solid food, their family members will also give them formula food because they think baby formula or fallout formula is safer. So this is not conducive to a healthy environment for babies. Many people have forgotten that baby formula is just a substitute. In terms of the nutrients, there are only 70 in baby formula, but there are more than 200 in mother milk. Many of the nutrients cannot be substituted by baby formula. And the lack of breastfeeding would also mean the foregoing of the close relationship and intimacy between the mother and the baby. Baby who grow up like this would have a better relationship with the mother. And now they resort to various claims. For example, they think that they claim that the nutritions are good for the baby's development. But all scientific reports will tell us that the mother milk is the best. So on what basis are those claims made? Is that some constituents can soften stools? Are there scientific evidence? I welcome a full list of scientific literature. Now we are trying to ban exaggerated health claims which are not scientifically based. We have to bear in mind that advertisement doesn't mean the provision of information. We cannot just believe whatever is claimed in an advertisement. Some doctors claim that this is just like regulating claims on tonic food for adults. Since we regulate health claims for tonic foods for adults, why not on for baby formula products?
Our position is that IYC foods as well as follow-up formula should be comprehensively regulated, and provision should be immediately and practically implemented. Next, Nestle Hong Kong Limited, Ms. Elena Chan. Mr. Chairman, our company fully supports appropriate regulation. We're still some time from the end of the consultation period. We still have to conduct studies. Our preliminary views are as follows. We already have laws such as the Commodity Description Ordinance to govern claims which must not be false or misrepresented. Hong Kong people do have the right to information such that they will make an informed choice. For the legislative proposals for baby formula, that is the IYC foods, we agree that there shouldn't be any excessive advertisements. But for formula products for infants 3 to 6 years old, scientifically based claims can be put forth. At the same time, we should take reference from international practices like USA, UK, EU, Germany, the Netherlands, the mainland, and so forth, in order to put forth appropriate claims. I hope that the government can, as soon as possible, publish a series of claims that can be put forth. And there must be a mechanism to allow us to apply for lodging such claims, and there should be application procedures and timetable for the industry to follow. Finally, we would like the administration to consider giving a grace period to the industry, for example, 24 months, such that we can, as soon as possible, observe the law. Take, for example, nutrition claims. We are already making preparation for statutory observance, but we need some time, and we would like the government to understand us. Next, Mead Johnson Nutrition Hong Kong Limited, Dr. Lee Xiong Yung.
Honorable members of the Legislative Council and the Hong Kong government representatives and all participants, good afternoon. It is my great pleasure to be here to represent Mead Johnson to share our view. It is our policy that we support regulating claims on infant formula and the follow-up formulas so that all product informations delivered to the consumers are scientifically substantiated. Such a regulation would respect scientific research as well as honor the consumer's needs to know. But overregulation can be dangerous and not conducive for introducing innovations. Here I'd like to share some personal experience. When I was a young scientist working in Mead Johnson in late 80s, I was involved in the project to develop the first infant formula containing added DHA and ARA for clinical research. 10 years later, after finished many clinical research showing clear indication of the benefit of adding DHA and ARA in infant formula, Hong Kong was picked as the first market to introducing infant formula with DHA ARA, and it was introduced in 1999, 10 years after our company started to work on the clinical study. That introduction was greatly successful, and soon after, Mead Johnson introduced the infant formula with DHA ARA all over the world. Had the legislation requirement at the time do not allow us to communicate to the benefit of DHA ARA to the consumers, Hong Kong's citizens would not have the opportunity to be the first in the world to receive the benefit of one of the greatest findings in the modern nutrition science. Many governments understand the importance of providing conducive legislative environment to provide opportunities for companies to introducing the benefits of science into the product and make it available to consumers. Therefore, we also support the government approach to form an expert panel that would review the claims that is scientifically substantiated. Thank you.
下一位係民主建港
Next, Democratic Alliance for the Betterment and Progress of Hong Kong, Mr. Benny Poon. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In recent years, many baby formula manufacturers claim a lot of nutritional merits in their products in order to boost sales. But there may be misleading claims as well as misrepresentation as well as exaggerative description. This is not to the advantage of consumers in terms of the right to know and freedom of information. First of all, we agree that claims for reduction of diseases in formula products and IYC food should be prohibited. The industry should not put forth such claim in order to boost their sales. Number two, for IYC foods as well as formula products and their regulation, we're of the view that formula products for those between 0 to 6 months old should not bear nutrition and health claims. As for the older infants, under certain conditions and under regulation, certain claims can be put forth. For example, if the Food and Health Bureau's consent or approval as well as scientific evidence should be required, and the drafting of such claims should also be scientific. Here, many of our friends support breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is the best choice for the health and development of infants. So the DAB is of the view that the administration should create a friendly environment for breastfeeding and to put more resources in publicity and education. Next, No Brand Hong Kong Company Limited, Ms. Virginia Mo, their General Manager. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Professor Chan and all, good afternoon. Snow Brand absolutely supports breastfeeding and the proposed regulatory framework on formula products and IYC foods. A free society is the cornerstone of Hong Kong, and consumers' rights have all along been protected well. The government should maintain that core value. In society, certain mothers, because of various reasons, cannot have breastfeeding or continuous breastfeeding, so they must make use of formula products. Now, these products must have access to information about the nutrition and health values of these formula products. Consumers have the right to know and should be able to make informed choices such that their infants receive the appropriate nutrition. If the administration adopts a broad brush approach in banning all nutrition and health claims for formula products and IYC foods, it will be taking away the right of these consumers, the right to information. Therefore, when drafting the regulatory provisions, the government should take reference from other jurisdictions. At the moment, most jurisdictions like the EU, Australia, New Zealand, Singapore, and mainland China approve nutrition and health claims for IYC foods and formula products. So we should strike a balance between the right to informed choice as well as freedom of information. We should take reference from the standards adopted in the international community. A nutrient list should be formulated and have a vetting regime that is fair and just and transparent. Finally, we have to say that Snow brand supports the appropriate regulation of nutrition and health claims, but we must take reference from Hong Kong's social circumstances. We're now preparing for the new labeling law. So in future, for formula products and IYC foods, we would like to have sufficient grace period to make preparation for another round of new provisions. Thank you. Next, Catholic Messengers of Green Consciousness, Reference Chang. In terms of breastfeeding, we absolutely agree with the WHO. While having additional nutrients, we should maintain breastfeeding for infants above 2 years old. We educate our church members, but our church members find it difficult to differentiate between formula products and mother milk. Mother milk is for human beings, while formula products are for cows because they're from cows. Formula products are far less valuable than mother milk. So formula products are of secondary choice. So we would like mothers to choose breastfeeding. The contents of the advertisements and publicity materials put up by formula product companies may mislead consumers. They may think that there's not much difference between mother milk and formula products. We must understand that formula products are second best only. This is scientifically based. The formula product companies cannot deny this. This has something to do with morality. In particular, mother milk is free. It is the infant's right to have mother milk. We must allow our infants to have perfect food. I hope that LegCo members will be awakened to the fact that mother milk is the perfect food for infants and formula products are second choices. We must guard against the publicity materials of the formula product companies, which may be misleading to the general public. We very much agree with the Food and Health Bureau and the Department of Health in their determination in legislation. We fully agree that we should legislate for regulation. Breastfeeding will reduce the use of formula products, but as a result, we'll be able to reduce garbage as well as pollution and waste. So we should join hands in promoting breastfeeding such that we can reduce waste and reduce emissions of other pollutants. Next, Hong Kong Infant and Young Child Nutrition Association, Mr. Clarence Chung. Thank you, Chairman.
We have 6 member companies which have a long history, which have been devoted to the development of quality baby food. We welcome the proposed consultation on the regulatory framework. On behalf of our members, I would like to offer some preliminary views. First, on the basic principles. We believe a regulatory system should be transparent, consistent, and reasonable. On the question of standards, we should follow international standards so that when parents make their choices, they would have access to the latest scientific information in the world. Actually, all the claims made by our member companies are scientifically and internationally assessed. Internationally, they always have an open and transparent system. Very seldom would all the claims be banned. For example, in the EU, special health and nutrition claims can be made after substantiation and a certain procedure. The administration should set up an expert panel, establish the vetting process and arrangements, and regularly review such claims so that parents will have access to the latest information on claims. The administration should allow the inclusive approach to be adopted so as to assist parents and health professionals to make the informed choice. A restrictive approach is against the international practice. This would also stifle the innovation and improvement of baby formula products. We propose that a 24-month grace period be allowed after the system is implemented so that we can do the repackaging and revision necessary. And if this is particularly important, if the negative vetting approach is adopted for the legislation, we will be submitting another submission in more detail to the administration concerning the proposed system. Ms. Veronica C. from Wife Hong Kong Holding Company Limited. We support the proposed regulatory framework to ensure that there is a consistent system in place, and the regulatory system should be consistent and transparent, and also it should be one that promotes innovation. We support the proposed system in principle, but there must be further clarification of some key terms. We also propose the inclusive approach be adopted. For example, in respect of health claims, as the administration has claimed, locally we don't have any reference value table for the nutrition in respect of babies from 0 to 36 months. Some other countries are facing the same problem, but they have already set conditions for making such claims. So the Center for Food Safety should reference to other laws. For example, the claims should be made based on certain conditions in the labeling law. For follow-up formula, we should make reference to the lowest nutrition standards in the Codex guideline. On the formulation of packaging, we should adopt the inclusive approach. We believe such information can provide necessary information to parents. A restrictive approach would take away all the advantages of labeling information. Also, for follow-up formula and IYC foods, there are supplements used by many children, and they should be subject to the same regulatory standards. In North America and EU, such claims are allowed subject to certain conditions. And also the list of allowable claims should be reviewed regularly. And in reviewing the list, there should be a dialogue involving different stakeholders, the consumer, the experts, and the government, and the industry, so that the recommendations would have wide support. And also there should be a grace period to allow for the suppliers so that we can make necessary changes.
對唔住，凌志靜女士。
Ms. Lydia Ling. I was qualified in 1978 as a consultant to promote breastfeeding. And after 6 months, a baby should gradually eat a variety of solid food in addition to mother milk so as to get all the necessary nutrients. In the initial stage, the infant must get used to different texture, taste, and color of different foods. If they just take baby formula products, they would lead to a very biased diet, and also there are additives in the baby formula products. And we have to bear in mind that there are different effects for different additives, and some babies will require special diet, and this should be done with the advice of dietitians or doctors. We should not be misled by exaggerating commercials. And also, mother milk contains antibiotics, which is good for the baby's healthy growth. And breastfeeding also fosters a sense of security. If an infant can take solid food normally, there's no need to use baby formula or follow-up formula. And there's no need for any advertisement to help parents make the choice. I hope businessmen will no longer try to lure parents into this through the baby actors. They should not make unnecessary claims, because this has affected the breastfeeding ratio from 80% in the initial 6 months to under 10% subsequent to 6 months. The administration should also step up training of professionals in support of breastfeeding, and the government should also consider providing better support, such as lengthening the maternity leave. In the UK, US, Canada, and the European countries, they are closely monitoring the solicitation aspect of baby formula advertisement. Hong Kong is a big international city. We have a very sound system. We should not lag behind those countries. Chairman, according to Section 18, I don't think anyone here is allowed to make misleading claims here. Well, the deputations or individuals who speak here are not covered by the Legislative Council Powers and Privileges Ordinance. But no false information is allowed under the ordinance, right? Well, everyone is responsible for his or her speech. I'm not in a position to judge whether someone is telling a lie or not. It's not a point of order. You should not interrupt. This is a public hearing. Everyone will be given the same speaking time here.
Hong Kong Limited Managing Director, Mr. Arnold van den Berg.
Mr. Chairman, members of the panel, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Arnold van den Berg. I'm the Managing Director of Friesland Campina in Hong Kong. Thank you for the invitation for our company to give our views on the proposed regulatory framework. Friesland Campina commends the Hong Kong SAR government for its efforts to create a regulatory framework through legislation that ensures a level playing field for all companies in our industry. And we believe this is the best way to protect and preserve consumers' right to access the factual and scientifically substantiated nutrition information they require to make informed choices. We also believe that an inclusive approach to claim approvals is needed to ensure this access. We have provided our views in our written submission, and we would like to use this opportunity to highlight some key points related to ensuring smooth implementation and industry compliance with the new regulations within a reasonable time frame. On the technical side, we understand from clause 4.14 in the consultation document that nutrient reference values for the designated age group of 0 to 36 months for the respective claims will be a prerequisite for claim approval. Unfortunately, these nutrient reference values for this age group have not been established yet in Hong Kong, so we suggest that the government enforce that part of the new legislation only when these values become available. Regarding implementation, we noted from the industry briefing provided by the Center for Food Safety that the new regulation will be a subsidiary legislation to COP 132W and that negative vetting may apply. However, we refer to our experience complying with the nutrition labeling legislation of infant formula, follow-up formula and prepackaged food for infants and young children, that we can foresee potential compliance challenges from negative vetting that may create a shortened grace period. It is our understanding that subsidiary legislation such as this need not follow the previous practice of the same ordinance, and that could allow the government to consider adopting a positive vetting approach. We believe that the government will receive a large number of approval requests when the legislation is finalized and published. From a practical and administrative standpoint, we suggest the government should determine a clear approval timeframe for the first batch of submissions with a confirmed date to announce all approvals. That should be followed by a grace period of not less than 24 months in order to provide sufficient time for the industry to implement the approval results. Lastly, we believe supply stability reinsurance at the retail level is essential and ask the government to give priority to claim proposals linked to products supplied to the hospital authority under the HA milk tender. Mr. Chairman, thank you again for the opportunity to provide our perspective on this matter. We will continue to cooperate with the government and share our views throughout the consultation process. Thank you.
下一位民主黨發言人陳樹英女士。
多謝主席。
Ms. Josephine Chan of the Democratic Party. Last year, the Democratic Party suggested that we should have full regulation of infant formula, follow-up formula, and IFC food in respect of quality and claims. And there should be no advertisement allowed for infant formula so as to promote breastfeeding. And advertisement of infant formula, if allowed, should stipulate that breastfeeding is the best. And no misleading information should be allowed. And suitable laws and regulations should be introduced to regulate nutrition claims for the follow-up formula and IFC foods. We welcome the consultation document. The regulations should cover nutrition claim and health claims for baby formula and IFC foods. The Democratic Party is of the view that regulating such claims aimed at telling the consumer that these products, infant formula and follow formula and IFC foods, are not better than mother milk. And we also want to make sure that suitable information is provided to the consumer. As some other deputations have said, that when in some cases breastfeeding is not possible, so the consumer must have access to the information to make an informed choice for babies in respect of infant formula products, follow formula products, and IFC foods. We believe that the middle-of-the-road approach in terms of regulatory approach should be allowed. For example, in respect of principles 1 to 3, the Democratic Party find them acceptable, and that is for infant formula for babies from 0 to 12 months. The claims such as the nutrition content claim, nutrition comparative claims should be banned so as to not to mislead the consumer. And also such formula products and IFC foods should not be allowed to make reduction of disease risk claims. So these are for the growth of babies, not for reduction of risk.
而唔係配方產品，係作
Principle 6 will regulate nutrition claims. That's acceptable. For point 3, A is an error on our part. We don't agree with nutrition claims either. Nutrition claims should also be regulated. So we agree with the remaining proposals of the government. Next, Mr. Andrew Wong from Abbott Laboratories Limited.
Welcomes the government's initiative and greatly appreciate the opportunities provided over the past year to participate in the discussion. Abbott would like to submit the following comments for consideration. Number 1, formulas for special medical purpose, FSMP. Abbott supports the Bureau's intention to exempt FSMP formula from the regulation on claims. The FSMPs Abbott imports into Hong Kong are niche products for specific patient populations and are formulated to meet very special medically determined needs under the supervision of the physician. Specific nutrition or medical claims may be needed to provide information relevant to the healthcare practitioner and or caregiver to ensure appropriate understanding and the use of the formula. Number 2, nutrient reference values, NRV. On establishing a Hong Kong-specific NRV list, this is a task that requires much effort. At the same time, Chapter 132W makes reference to the Chinese NRV. Hence, it might be more effective to work with mainland China regulators to establish NRVs for our country, considering that intake and nutrient needs would be similar among mainland Hong Kong and Hong Kong populations. It is critical to note that there are nutrients without an established NRV or DRI globally, but for which the available scientific evidence indicates a beneficial effect. Consequently, claims indicating such have been authorized by other jurisdictions. DHA is an example. Thus, an established NRV should not be a contingent for nutrition and health claims, as it would limit education of such scientifically demonstrated benefits for optional ingredients and could de-incentivize industry and academics from furthering research and development of evolving nutrition science. Hence, Abbott would like to suggest that an NRV list should be set for making nutrient content and comparative claims for essential nutrients, but one should be allowed to state the amount of optional ingredients contained in the product as in the current regulation for general food. Point number 3 on grace period. Abbott would recommend to have a minimum 2 years grace period. This is taking into consideration the factors of possible product reformulation, manufacturing, testing at various stages, product release, freight, and local distribution. The Bureau should also take into consideration that the industry is currently undergoing a significant relabeling exercise due to the recent legislation on composition and labeling. It might create inconvenience for the public and possible stock scarcity if the two changes are closely timed together. Thank you.
下一位係防止虐待兒童會總幹事何愛珠博士。
唔該主席，防止
Against child abuse, Dr. Jessica Ho. Well, our association has been established for 35 years, and we have always been addressing child abuses. We welcome the administration's proposal to regulate formula products and IYC foods in the nutrition and health claims so as to protect infants. Breastfeeding is the most natural feeding method. It will also enhance the intimate relationship between the mother and the infant. Under whatever circumstances, breastfeeding will provide to the infant the best. Article 24 of the United Nations Convention on Children's Rights is relevant. In many tracing surveys, it's revealed that the longer the breastfeeding period, the better the mother-child relation will be, and the child will have a stronger sense of security, and child abuse cases can also be reduced. And the first 3 years is very important. So for the first 6 months, there should be full breastfeeding until 1 year old. And then thereafter, local foods can be fed to the infants, and parents should have the right to receive information to arrive at a balanced diet for the infant. So for the 5 principles, we have the following proposals. We support principles 1 and 2. That is, formula products and IYC foods should ban nutrition and health claims as well as claims for reducing diseases. As for principle 3, we do not agree that there should be nutrition claims and nutrient function claims for IYC foods. As for principles 4 and 5, we support them. The government should enhance the control of exaggerated claims and unsubstantiated claims. The government should define what are the permitted claims and should regularly handle complaints. We fully agree that we should have comprehensive policies for controlling such products, and execution should be strict. The grace period should be short because any delay in execution will affect the whole life of babies. We would like the government to, as soon as possible, impose codes for the sale of formula products and IYC foods. Next, Ms. Jessie Cho from Danone Nutricia Early Life Nutrition Hong Kong Limited. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Danone supports breastfeeding. For this consultation period, we welcome the administration's proposals on regulating nutrition and health claims for formula products and IYC foods. Danone is of the view that consumers should make informed choices. Scientific research indicates that breastfeeding and formula products and IYC foods have significant impact on infant development. Packaging is also important. Parents should be able to make informed choices. If the information is scientifically based and is not exaggerative or not misleading, then there shouldn't be any restriction. Preliminarily, we have 3 views. First of all, accurate information can enhance knowledge of nutritional science. Danone has invested hugely on this in markets all over the world to produce products that suit infants. Such will impact on the health of infants when they grow up. So scientifically based claims should allow the consumers to understand the science behind such claims. Secondly, excessive regulation may suffocate scientific research. There may be differences between claims and facts, so we must require micronutrients like iron to be suitably included in formula products and IYC foods. Excessive regulation will suffocate such scientific research. Besides, we should ensure a level playing field. Unsubstantiated claims may have adverse effect on infant health. The operators must observe clear rules and guidelines. Danone supports a pre-approved checklist in Australia, New Zealand, US, and other advanced jurisdictions, such as proved to be working well. Good feeding methods will allow infants to absorb good nutrients. In the early stage, nutrients are important to infants. Very often, manufacturers need time to make adjustments, so the SARG should be more accommodative to enhance transparency in the regulatory regime. Next, Hong Kong Academy of Medicine, Hong Kong College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. Dr. Leung Wing Chang. Mr. Chairman, I'm representing the Academy today. Since 1990, I've been an obstetrician and gynecologist. We're not blindly supporting breastfeeding. In the long term and short term, breastfeeding is good for children, so we support it. But that doesn't mean that we are breastfeeding Taliban. As for those, for various reasons, who cannot have breastfeeding, we absolutely support those mothers and their families. We will not discriminate against them. This time, the government proposes to regulate formula products and IYC foods for children under the age of 36 months. We support the move. On page 24 of the consultation document, that is, whether inclusive, restrictive, or a middle approach should be adopted, our academy keeps an open mind. Our bottom line is that all nutrient and health claims should be scientifically based. That is, they should be evidence-based. We must have genuine science and not pseudoscience. Next, Ms. Eliza Chan. Mr. Chairman, I support the proposed regulation on formula products and IYC foods for those below the age of 36 months. I support the 5 principles as well as the regulatory scope. In EU and the US and some other jurisdictions, nutrition and health claims are prohibited for formula products and IYC foods. In fact, by looking at nutrient labels, parents should be able to choose the suitable food for their infant. Certain claims like breastfeeding is the best for infants should be included on the labels. As for public consultation on the code, as the consultation exercise has been completed, the code should be adopted immediately because in many jurisdictions elsewhere in the world, they've already started regulation. Do we really need to wait for 24 months? I have doubts. I'm a media member as well as a children education worker. I support that all formula products and IYC foods for those below the age of 36 months should be banned from advertisements like publicity activities, naming, sponsorship, and so forth. A very short episode of advertisement can impact hugely on the mentality of society. So a complete ban on the advertisements on such products will not affect parents' choices. As I said, all formula products should satisfy the basic nutritional needs. Parents should only compare the places of origin, expiry date, and nutrition amounts. We must understand that breastfeeding, formula products are only substitutes for breast milk. We have to understand that breast milk is more useful than formula products. I hope that by this regulatory exercise, the myth of these nutrition and health claims can be broken such that parents can make the most appropriate and informed choice for their infants. Strict regulation will send a clear and accurate message to society to the effect that infant health cannot be affected by the interest of individual industries and trades. Next, Ms. Patricia, Vice Chairman of Baby Friendly Hospital Initiative Hong Kong Association. Mr. Chairman, we welcome the proposed regulation for formula products and IYC foods. Infant feeding is an important public health issue. To legislate is in compliance with the WHO policies on baby feeding. We must allow our children to grow healthily and normally. Mothers should not face risks. For the 5 principles, there must be strict adoption. That doesn't mean that we'll ban the sale of such products. Parents can buy such products, but will be given complete knowledge on the products. And parents should be educated how to choose formula products. For those below 6 months old, if there's no breast milk and formula products have to be used, then we have to know the essential nutrients for each and every brand. Codex has already been playing that role, so we don't need enhanced publicity to reduce breastfeeding. WHO is of the view that unnecessary IYC foods should be regulated. As for the follow-up formula, many mothers just don't know how to differentiate the nutrients from those for infant formula. The Department of Health discovered that our children rely too heavily on such products, so we must not allow follow-up formula to have nutrition and health claims. The merits of breast milk has been made use of to package follow-up formula. Some others believe that only follow-up formula have those nutrients. We must allow mothers to know that breast milk contains numerous nutrients, some even unknown to us. The situation is very serious in Hong Kong in relation to follow-up formula. This is rare elsewhere in the world.
Well, the grace period should be short. With regard to Principle 3, and that is if we allow certain claims to be made, then we should strictly enforce Principles 4 and 5. And the Hong Kong Code for the marketing the baby formula products should be enforced immediately. Thank you. Ms. Vicky Zhang. I support the administration's proposed regulation. Whether we're talking about infant formula or follow-up formula, they are supposed to replace mother milk. A mother's choice will be affected by advertisement. Some mothers may be misled into believing that such products are better than mother milk. And some mothers would waver whether to continue with breastfeeding because of certain claims. Or they may think that some baby formula products are better than others, and they may switch different brands. They may consume products claimed to prevent certain diseases, or they will switch to another brand with a claim that it's good for the intellectual development of the baby. I would like to see the restrictive approach adopted for infant formula and follow-up formula products. Because if you have a more lax system for follow-up formula, advertisement of follow-up formula may mislead people into thinking that infant formula products of the same brand would be equally beneficial. This is what has happened in Hong Kong, because people don't know that follow-up formula does not really cover also infant formula. And all infant formula products have to contain the 20-odd nutrients, and there's the nutrition label of the product. The consumer should easily compare the nutrient content, and the formulae of different products should be similar in view of the regulation. The claims may be misleading. For example, brand A says it contains 80% more DHA, another claims that there is 5% of DHA. So which is better? Different studies may give you different information, and sometimes the nutrients would be of different value. We have different values under different circumstances, and there's little information on excessive intake of certain nutrients. A baby over 12 months old should basically take solid food. But in Hong Kong, it's common for children up to 4 to 5 years old to continue to use formula products. Mr. Pang Chak-hong, How, from Association of Hong Kong Nursing Staff. Well, my association is interested in promoting health in the community. Breastfeeding is the best choice for babies, but in the market there are baby formula products and foods make claims concerning certain nutrients to attract the parents or the baby carers. Such claims may mislead people into believing that the nutrients of such products are better than mother milk, and as a result, parents would give up breastfeeding. We understand that this may just be one of the many causes of why people do not use breastfeeding. We have to make sure that parents are not misled. And sometimes, because of certain reasons, parents have to use baby formula products, and the baby may rely on such products as the sole source of nutrition. If all claims, nutrition or health claims, are banned, parents may find it difficult to choose among so many brands. We have the view that in regulating claims, we have to make sure that such claims are proven and that they are not misleading. We should have a stringent assessment arrangement so that we can have a list, and there should be frequent exchange of information with foreign authorities so that parents can have access to correct information. With the development of research, and certain claims may have to be modified. So apart from input from experts, there should also be public participation in the vetting process. All baby formula products must be covered by the regulatory system. This will make sure that no misleading claim will be allowed, and we also can promote a healthy competition among different suppliers and promote the health of babies. And Ms. Charlie Choi, well, the first speaker referred to some people as breastfeeding Talibans. I think she was talking about me, and it's a pity that the speaker has now left. How do we compare with Talibans? I'm not promoting something I like or I favor, but I'm promoting something which has been proven to be better, which is a natural part of human behavior. But in Hong Kong, 80% of mothers try to do this, but only 7% would be doing this after 6 months. When I promote this, I don't gain anything. So how can I be a Taliban? When some people talk about freedom of expression and the basic law is quoted, maybe I should also quote something from the ICCPR on the part of freedom of speech.
Exercise
of the rights contained here carries with it special duties and responsibility, and one of them is the protection of public health. We all know that the freedom of expression is a freedom, but it's not unlimited. In this case, health claims in advertisements are not protected rights under the freedom of speech. Mr. Wong? Mr. Wong, if you continue to interrupt with other people's speech, I have to ask you to leave. I have to ask you to leave. Mr. Wong, if you continue like this. And if you look at international law, in 1981, the Code on International Marketing of Breast Milk Substitutes was passed with the support of 188 countries. I think that kind of support is difficult to secure compared with legislation passed in this council, because they had information and access to scientific research findings. They know that the advertisement of baby formula product suppliers are so pervasive that they are and so powerful, and this is not a fair competition. Breastfeeding don't give you $2.7 billion in advertisement revenue. Some products may need to tell the consumer that they have got some special information, but since last year, we have introduced a very strict system regulating the nutrients of infant formula products. So all the products are similar in the market. If they are so very different, then the products are problematic. I hope all those who are selling baby infant formula products, you must understand that you are selling something which are important to babies, and you should not mix false claims. Next, we have Mr. Billy Wong from the Hong Kong Committee on Children's Rights. We support the proposed regulation system on baby and infant formula products for babies under 24 months. According to the UN Convention on the Children of the Rights, the government, the signatory governments should promote breastfeeding and allow parents access to information, and the interests of the baby should be of the first priority. And Hong Kong must heed this particular convention and the advice therein, because it's important that baby should have a good start by planning properly with nutrient intake. It would have a lifelong impact on the growth of the baby. So we believe that baby formula products and IFC foods should not be regulated like other food items. It should be regulated to safeguard the health of babies. First, for the nutrition claims and health claims, there should be statutory regulation, and the standards should be as stringent as reasonably required. And there should be a proper policy on this. And the right of the baby to breastfeeding should be protected. There should be publicity to protect the healthy growth of babies. And there should be systematic and sustained publicity efforts to promote this. Nutrition labeling should provide more information to inform people to have a healthy dietary habits and to prevent the consumption of high-fat food items. There should be proper regulation, and there should be regular surveys and gain a better understanding of the dietary habits of babies, so as to inform policy making by the administration and to provide data for formulating policies. There should be a policy committee on promotion of breastfeeding and healthy food, as well as the regulation of health, nutrition claims and health claims. There should be regular exercises to set the NRV for babies. We urge the administration to implement expeditiously the Hong Kong Code on the marketing of baby formula products.
Next, Civic Party, Ms. Sunshine Chiu. The Civic Party understands the merit of breast milk. For the formula products and IYC foods, if anything goes wrong in the recipe or formula, the consequence can be very serious. And for IYC foods, we've not got any regulation until the 6th of January, when the administration started the consultation period on the proposed regulatory framework on nutrition and health claims on formula products and IYC foods. The government should not delay this any further. We must improve on the safety of formula products and IYC foods. Therefore, for this consultation exercise, we have 4 points to put forth. Number 1, no more postponement. By way of legislation, we should be able to improve the safety of formula products and IYC foods. Number 2, with strict regulation, we should target nutrition and health claims. And the proposed regulatory framework is more lenient than that for the code previously. Increase DHA level by 3 times will be regulated, but the government tends to be more lenient on the claims about bone health. So, in terms of labeling and advertisements, the Civic Party is of the view that the government should have strict regulation to ensure the safety of our infants. Number 3, education. More resources should be invested in education, such that mothers and potential mothers will be well informed. Why should they choose substitutes instead of breast milk? The government should enhance publicity in that regard. For example, the Department of Health, the Hospital Authority, in the prenatal and postnatal talks should do publicity well, such that mothers know that these are only substitutes for breast milk, and breast milk has its own merits. And then in public places, there should be separate premises for breastfeeding. Thank you.
It's in the Chinese University of Hong Kong. Professor Nelson Edmund Anthony Swan.
Thank you for the opportunity to present on behalf of the department. I think we would all agree that evidence is very important, so we should start by thinking of what we know on this topic. We know that marketing of breast milk substitutes is associated with reduced rates and shorter duration of breastfeeding in favour of formula feeding. We know from studies done in Australia and Europe that commercial promotion of follow-up formulas is used as a way by industry to promote infant formula. And we also know from these studies that advertisements of follow-up formula are misinterpreted by mothers and they're seen as promoting infant formula. So therefore, follow-up formulas should be regulated in the same way as infant formula. So therefore, we propose 5 principles. Firstly, advertising and packaging of foods is usually not equivalent to providing factual information and is typically designed to manage the public's perception and to increase sales, rather than the promotion of public's optimal short and long-term health. Second principle, simple and unambiguous regulation is optimal to ensure effective monitoring and compliance. As we've heard, Codex already provides a simple, unambiguous regulatory framework that does not allow either nutrient content claims, nutrient comparative claims, nutrient function claims, other function claims, or reduction of disease risk claims for either infant formula, follow-up formula, or YRC foods. So therefore, most importantly, to promote the long-term health of Hong Kong infants and young children, Hong Kong should adopt Codex's simple, unambiguous regulatory framework. Principle 3, the concept of follow-up formula is not based on any solid nutritional science, but is a marketing and branding strategy to advertise infant formulas. Infant formulas meeting Codex standards for use below 6 months of age can also safely be used and nutritionally used beyond 6 months of age. However, should industry continue to differentiate products that are considered not suitable for infant feeding below 6 months of age, these products should be clearly labelled with this warning and covered by the same regulations as outlined in Principle 2. Principle 4, all infant formula, follow-up formulas and YRC foods that are for special medical purposes should be exempted from the regulation on nutrient content claims to the extent that this information should be made clearly available to the consumer, for example, lactose-free. A mechanism is required for deciding what products should be labelled for special medical purposes, and such products should be used under medical supervision. And finally, Principle 5, all infant formula, follow-up formulas and YRC foods should carry a factual content label in compliance with existing food labelling regulations so that the consumer can be informed. Thank you.
局長，我諗你跟住要簡介當。
Under Secretary, I believe you have to introduce your paper to us. That is paper 568 bracket 04. I understand that you will use a PowerPoint presentation, right? And you also respond to the deputation's views. Let me remind you that we should conclude this item by 4:45 p.m. Sorry, 4:15 p.m. And 5 of our colleagues have already raised their hands to ask questions. Yes, thank you, Chairman. I'll try to be brief. Maybe I should only highlight a few salient points, and then I'll defer to Dr. Ho Yong Yin in relation to specific information in the PowerPoint presentation. I will also respond to deputation's views, and I'd like to thank them for their views. Now for the proposals on nutrition and health claims for formula products and IYC foods, we've started this consultation exercise, which will last for 3 months, up until the 17th of April. As for this proposed regulatory framework, our main objective is to enhance our protection for the health of those infants under the age of 36 months and to enhance the effectiveness of our work in that regard. All along, we've been promoting breastfeeding, which is the best method to provide the best food for the development and growth of infants. At the moment, many products have nutrition and health claims on their labels. in society, there are a lot of voices to the effect that these claims will mislead parents to believe that formula products are better than breast milk. So we would like to legislate to enhance regulation to prevent such improper claims from affecting mothers' decision on breastfeeding. Besides, we don't want parents to, on the basis of exaggerative claims, choose formula products, which may adversely affect infant health. So to further promote breastfeeding and to enhance our protection for infants and young children, in the proposal, we propose a regulatory framework to enhance our regulation on formula products and IYC foods. Well, briefly, there are 5 fundamental principles as our pretext. For the first 3 principles, we propose to ban nutrition and health claims for formula products and IYC foods. And in the remaining principles, we would like to reduce the risk posed by claims on diseases or prevention of diseases. So we would like to refer to the existing regulatory regime for packaged food in terms of health and nutrition claims. Whether or not we should permit or prohibit certain claims, that will be the major subject of the present consultation exercise. And just now, different deputations have different views. Those who support breastfeeding support stricter regulation. Other parties are of the view that sometimes the claims provide useful information to parents and shouldn't be totally banned. For the first 3 principles, they map out a framework for us to deliberate on whether or not we should prohibit or allow certain claims, and we would like to forge social consensus in these respects. Well, even if we are to permit certain claims, we still have 2 first and foremost principles in terms of regulation. Now, the claims must be about important nutrients and must be evidence-based, scientifically based. Under that framework, all permitted claims must be substantiated. There mustn't be any false or misleading claims. Given the proposed regulatory framework, we will not just work on formula products and IYC foods. The framework will not be restricted to prepackaged food. As for our working timetable, after the consultation period, we'll collate the views received, and after deliberation, we'll put forth specific legislative proposals. It really depends on the complexity of the views we receive from society and whether or not we have any consensus on the regulatory framework. We would like to introduce the piece of legislation to LegCo as soon as possible, possibly in the next legislative session. After the publication of the consultation document, we received a lot of views. Most of them are in support of the proposed regulation. Dr. Ho? Well, Dr. Ho, let me remind you, you mentioned the next legislative session. Don't throw something at us in April only. Don't think we have a lot of time. We may not even have a room to scrutinize your bill. Dr. Ho? Mr. Chairman, let me give you the details of the consultation exercise and the proposed regulatory framework. Now, 3 types of products are covered: infant formula, follow-up formula, and IYC foods. Well, pay attention to this. We're talking about under the age of 36 months, not under 6 months. Well, there are 5 categories of claims. 2 are nutrition claims, including the nutrient content claim and nutrient comparative claims. For health claims, there are 3 types: nutrient function claim, other function claim, and reduction of disease risk claim. DHA is included, but just now I heard somebody say that DHA will help with bone health. I've never encountered such claims. Under the existing laws, there's a regulation for untrue claims. But by introducing a new piece of legislation, we would like to step up regulation of such claims. We would like to enhance our protection for the health of these formula products and IYC products, as well as regulate the claimed efficacy of such foods. We refer to the Codex standards. Codex prohibits nutrition and health claims for such products. In certain jurisdictions, they have specific laws to permit such claims. As for breastfeeding, I won't repeat its merits here. So we defer to the Codex standards as well as public views and views of the experts. And just now the Undersecretary mentioned the first and foremost principle. Well, basically there are 3 basic principles for permitting and banning types of claims. Overall speaking, we ban some claims and permit others.
So you can see for different claims, we would like to seek public views, and there are different views expressed. And we are listening carefully before we make a decision on these claims. But even if claims are allowed, that there are 2 preconditions. For example, evidence. It must be evidence-based. In the future, if such claims are allowed, then they will have to be vetted first. There will be a vetting mechanism. Of course, there are also exemptions. If it's for special medical purposes, then such products will be exempted. We cover the labeling and also advertisement of baby formula products and IFC foods. We are only regulating the content of the advertisement. We are not banning advertisement as such. And we also talk about the grace period. There are 5 principles and also some proposed regulatory approaches, and also there will be a mechanism to vet claims. We are going to establish a list and also looking into the possibility of setting the necessary NRVs for Hong Kong, as well as considering the provision of a grace period. We have a number of members who would like to speak. Who else would like to speak apart from those who have already raised their hands? Ms. Ho, okay. We have 2 more items on the agenda, and we need to wrap up at 4:15. I'll give each member 4 minutes. If you want to get an answer, please allow some time for the right person to respond. Mr. Wong Kok Heng. I'd like to thank all the deputations and individuals who have come to our public hearing. I note that most of the deputations are in support of the proposed regulatory framework of the administration. I believe that's the mainstream view. I have 2 questions for the administration. Number 1, under the proposed regulation, will the administration devote resources to promote breastfeeding? Or you are just going to keep the status quo? And by status quo, I mean that there's nothing on TV in terms of advertisement or promotion. Second, formula products would try to find ways to evade regulation after the new regulatory system is established. If we look at the sale of first-hand properties, real properties, when you ban the use of certain description or words, well, then the developer would use other means such as photos, images, or a role playing to try to convince the buyer that if you buy a property from me, you'll be living in an environment like what you can see in a certain country. So similarly, they don't have to use certain words in baby formula or formula products advertisements. They don't need to mention any particular nutrients. They may say that your child can one day be a Nobel laureate if you use this. So if they try to evade regulation by the clever means of what is the government going to do? Undersecretary, we do provide resources to promote breastfeeding. Under the Bureau, we have a committee to promote breastfeeding, and they have worked very hard to make sure that healthcare organizations are more friendly, breastfeeding friendly, and also to promote the provision of breastfeeding facilities in different organizations. And under the Department of Health, we have a number of measures implemented to raise awareness of the benefits of breastfeeding. Second, on the question of advertisement, as some deputations have pointed out, advertisement cannot be equated with information. So apart from regulating advertisement through legislation, we also got other laws on nutrition labeling. And on top, we have the Hong Kong Code on marketing. Although the code is voluntary in nature, we do have certain regulation in that regard. In respect of marketing of baby formula products. Dr. Helena Wong, some people have asked if the claim is not a nutrition claim or health claim, or it's just a claim that if you consume certain formula products, well, your child will become a doctor and things like that. What about these other claims? Well, would it fall outside the proposed regulation? Or are you saying that we can do something under the Trade Description Ordinance? Are you going to propose a new ordinance? Or are you going to amend existing laws to establish the system? Well, we are going to amend existing laws. Well, which laws? Mr. Leung? We have this law, CAP 132W. CAP 132W. We're still in the consultation period, so we haven't really made a final decision on the regulation to be introduced. CAP 132W already covers packaging, labeling of certain formula products. As to how we are going to amend this law, it depends on the final decision on regulation. What about claims which are not health claims or nutrition claims? Will they be outside the proposed regulatory system? Well, for nutrition claims, health claims, including comparative claims and function claims, they will all be covered. But we are now open to views with regard to formula and IYC foods. But even if we allow the claims at the end of the day, there will still be the need to provide evidence, and there will be an approval procedure. And apart from regulating labels, we also regulate advertisement. Well, we have the Trade Description Ordinance, and I suppose it covers all foods, including baby foods. And under the TDO, Trade Description Ordinance, no misrepresentation should be allowed. Would that help? Mr. Leung, you were not talking about the Trade Description Ordinance. You were talking about the other law, CAP 132W. Can we rely on the Trade Description Ordinance now to regulate on misrepresentation or false claims? Well, we have different laws to regulate different claims, but these laws do not really focus on the claims that we're talking about. For example, in the Trade Description Ordinance, it is drafted in such a way that the threshold for prosecution is very high. So we believe that it would be better to rely on other laws. Dr. Kwok Ka-Kay, I thank all the deputations for coming today. I think I'm disappointed at the administration's attitude. According to Codex, there should be no nutrition claim or health claim for infant formula and IFC foods. Now they are open to health claims, either nutrition function claim or other function claims for infant formula. As some people have pointed out, follow-up formula products are very similar to infant formula products. So if you allow advertisement for follow-up formula products, claiming that they're good, because it contains PhD. But under the same brand name, they're also selling infant formula products. And it's been alleged that breastfeeding advocates are Talibans. No, the formula products suppliers and sellers are very powerful, because their advertisements overwhelm all publicity efforts to promote breastfeeding. I'm disappointed at the government's attitude. I'm not saying that no to the proposed regulation, because it's better than nothing. But why don't you follow the Codex recommendation, so that the regulatory system is more pragmatic? The community at large and the professional people are no match to the international conglomerates selling the baby formula products. they can use a lot of money to sell their products. The government only expends very little money to promote breastfeeding. If you watch TV, you can easily get 10 advertisements before you get an API on breastfeeding. Well, we're not letting anyone off the hook, and we are not compromising. We want to move on and introduce a regulatory system through legislation in order to protect the health of babies. We have a committee on the promotion of breastfeeding, and they've got plans and measures that they will implement. Of course, I agree that we can do more, but I hope everyone would agree that we are working on it. With this framework and 5 principles proposed, we would like to listen to views from all quarters, because these are controversial issues. We have, of course, made reference to Codex recommendations and principles, as well as the practices of other jurisdictions. We also got an expert panel on food safety. All such views expressed have been considered. In the proposed framework, we have 2 choices, allowed or not allowed for certain claims. It's not that we would certainly allow all those claims to be made. We want to listen to public opinion first. And as you have heard, there are different views. And even if claims are allowed, they must be approved by a vetting panel, and there must be evidence to support the claims. Mr. Winston Fang, I thank all the deputations for just using your time to come and tell us your views once again.
This proposed regulatory framework has our support. But as we said, in front of us, there are already a number of laws that can do the job. For example, the Trade Description Ordinance, and then the Undesirable Medical Advertisement Law. So, for any untrue or misleading claims, you absolutely have the power under those laws to sanction the relevant parties. May I ask you this? Will you act on the places of origin? Because most formula products and IYC foods are imported. So, can we adopt the practices elsewhere in the world, that is in other jurisdictions? And just now the deputations mentioned the merits of breastfeeding. I think for the general public of Hong Kong, both mothers and potential mothers know that breastfeeding is the best. We all know that. But can we support mothers in breastfeeding all the way up to when the infant is 2 years old? Do our offices and shopping malls have the relevant facilities? And what about the stakeholders? Have you ever asked the mothers whether or not they're willing to breastfeed their babies up until 2 years old? You should conduct such a survey so everybody knows the merits of breastfeeding. But in this commercial society of Hong Kong, is that practicable? Well, I listened to the Undersecretary. But the deputations were saying that these days or in recent times, a lot of new laws are forthcoming. For example, that on labeling requirements. So they want a grace period. Well, 24 months may sound very long for you, but if you look at this time frame from the standpoint of a manufacturer, you'll find that very short. Now, online purchases are more and more popular these days. What about those products purchased online? How are you going to regulate them? Can we borrow experience from other jurisdictions, like for the claims allowed in the places of origin? Under Secretary, well, for places of origin, as Dr. Ho said, we'll have a vetting mechanism, as Dr. Ho mentioned. If in a place of origin a claim is allowed, then the applicant needs only proof that that particular claim is allowed in the place of origin. Failing that, we have to resort to other approaches. Besides, we did try to understand the circumstances in Hong Kong. The Committee on the Promotion of Breastfeeding is looking into the actual circumstances of Hong Kong. We'll also examine those places with restrictions. We'll try to promote breastfeeding. At the moment, we can regulate online purchases. Next, Mr. Chen Han-pan. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd also like to thank the deputations for coming. Indeed, some advertisements on formula products and IYC foods are too exaggerating. Well, some advertisements are misleading. For example, some claim that the products can lead to better brain development. So I hope the industry will come up with better advertisements. Now, for this proposed checklist, for manufacturers, I'd like the Bureau to elaborate on how this checklist is to operate. What will be the modus operandi? And on what basis or criteria will the Bureau decide what claims should be allowed? Perhaps I should defer to Dr. Ho. Dr. Ho? Thank you, Chairman. There are two types of claims: nutrition claims and health claims. For nutrition claims, will mainly refer to the practice in other jurisdictions and to allow certain nutrition claims. As for health claims, as the Undersecretary mentioned, we'll have a vetting mechanism. If a product is already vetted in another jurisdiction, then the applicant should submit the information to us. And if we're of the view that the vetting process is reasonable and the claim concerned is evidence-based and substantiated, then we can allow it. If a product has not obtained any permission from another jurisdiction, then a fresh application will have to be lodged, and it has to go through the local vetting mechanism, which will last longer. What do you mean by other jurisdictions? Can you tell us which jurisdictions will be acceptable and which not? Dr. Ho, well, EU, USA, Japan, mainland, and the like. They are so-called bigger jurisdictions, and they've already got some vetting procedures. There are also authorities for vetting. You include Australia and New Zealand also, right? You did not mention them. Oh, yes, Australia and New Zealand as well. Just now, some deputations asked for a 2-year transitional period. I believe transition is very important. The same applied to Chinese medicine practitioners. The profession was very worried if the grace period was not long enough. So can you tell us how long will the grace period be? Under Secretary, many deputations mentioned this point just now. Of course, we want to have a reasonable grace period. If you look at the whole process, first of all, we have to receive applications, and then we have to vet the applications. Different procedures will be involved in the transitional period. At the moment, it's really difficult to say. It really depends on the finalized regulatory framework and what will be regulated. And then we'll consider how much time the Center for Food Safety needs to do vetting. So we'll impose an appropriate grace period. You need not worry. We'll keep in contact with the industry. Mr. To, Mr. Chairman, claims are easier to regulate. Say if you claim that your product can make an infant cleverer, that's easy. But if in the advertisement you see a baby, an infant, with a bright blue sky behind it, well, will you regulate such advertisements? If you regulate such advertisements, you may be criticized for undermining speech freedom. But then if you don't regulate such advertisements, we'll be worried that such advertisement may also be misleading. Dr. Kwakaki just now said that in overseas jurisdictions, all advertisements are banned. Now, legislation is not the most difficult task, but after legislation, if you want to promote breastfeeding, you have to create a friendly environment. Now we have 4 weeks before and 6 weeks after delivery for a mother, and for the fathers, only 3 days of paternity leave. So, if the mother is working, it's very, very difficult to do breastfeeding. And in offices and shopping malls, very rarely do we have a suitable room for breastfeeding. So how can you require parents to do breastfeeding? So apart from legislation, there are a lot of other tasks. Under Secretary, points taken. You recall that previously we got a Hong Kong code under the Department of Health. That's for regulating sales and tactics of sales for IYC foods. The composition, label, and other elements will be regulated under this Hong Kong Code. So I hope we can attain something under the Hong Kong Code. As for advertisements, well, I'm referring to sentimental advertisements. So nothing is said but just a baby with a bright blue sky behind it. Well, we'll look at the claim concerned the claims will have to be evidence-based, scientifically based. As for advertisements, the Hong Kong Code will regulate certain aspects. On top of all these, for breastfeeding, if we can enhance promotion such that all Hong Kong mothers can make an informed choice to feed their babies, it would be good. Well, the trade description ordinance may be sufficient for claims that are scientifically based. You may not need another piece of legislation, but for the sentimental advertisements, the trade description ordinance will not suffice. Well, yes, the advertisement with the baby sitting there with a bright blue sky at the back. So, no claims, but you can get the meaning. You can sense the message. Well, Mr. Chairman, I've heard their dialogues. Well, if you only regulate claims, maybe we don't need a new piece of legislation. Oh, no, you still need a new piece of legislation. Defer to the PAS. In the consultation document, we refer to a number of ordinances targeting different forms of claims. But all those cannot regulate the subjects in this consultation exercise. Well, the threshold in the trade description ordinance is very high, and for undesirable medical advertisements, they mainly target medicine. But here we're targeting formula products and IYC foods. Well, even though the threshold is strict, you should not neglect it. It seems that you're trying to create a new piece of legislation with a lower threshold, and you must regulate sentimental advertisements as well. Well, time's almost up. Under Secretary, you did not answer certain questions from our colleagues. Some of our colleagues asked you to do more in terms of publicity and promotion. They asked whether you would enhance your effort in those regards. You only told us what you had been doing. And then for public places, if mothers want to breastfeed their babies, in what way can you encourage them to do so, particularly in shopping malls? Moreover, I reminded you just now that you shouldn't introduce a bill to us in April. If you want to enact the bill in this legislative session, we'll proceed on summer recess in July. Now, in future, when the applicants come, they have to know the criteria of assessment. So please do your consultation well.
多謝各個團體同
Once again, I would like to welcome, thank all the deputations for coming to our meeting today. We now have to move on to the next item, and that is item 5. The Deputy Secretary will remain. We are on this item, the review on fees for slaughterhouse services provided by the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department. The Secretary has provided an information note. It's a CB 2773-1415-06. Under Secretary, are you ready? Are you ready? Yes.
OK， 請你簡介當局嘅文件。
Please introduce the administration's paper, CB 2773-1415-05. Thank you. This is a paper on the review on fees for slaughterhouse services. We would like to revise the fees for slaughterhouse licenses and services provided by FEHD. In the 2013 policy address, the government announced that we would like to align the different fees and charges that existed for facilities and services in urban areas and NT. And since the fees have remained unchanged since 2000, the FHD has conducted a review of the fee levels. So today we are presenting the first batch of fee revision proposals, and they are related to slaughterhouse services and other services. So slaughterhouse services first. The fees have remained the same since the last revision by the Regional Council in 1997. In line with the user pays principle, the government would like to generally recover the full cost of providing the services. The FHD has reviewed five fees items, and would like to recover costs. The details of the proposed revisions are set out in the annex. There are two revision of fees and two new fees to be introduced. We're talking here about license fees for slaughterhouse and inspection fees. We want to make sure that the fees reflect the actual operation, and also that we are going to introduce two components, basic fees and variable fees. We also want to recategorize animals so that they belong to different categories and to more accurately reflect the actual operations and the cost structure. We're also going to revise examination fees, both ante-mortem and post-mortem, to reflect our costs. For new fee items, we want to introduce two new items. First, transfer of license and alteration to approved layout to reflect the cost of this service. We also want to set the fees made through electronic applications at a lower level to reflect the actual cost and to encourage the submission of applications electronically. There are existing 3 licensed slaughterhouse operators. After the change, the license fee will be reduced by 80 to 90%. As for examination fees, that depends on the number of food animals which have to be examined, both ante-mortem or post-mortem. Assuming that the existing 3 licensed slaughterhouse operators continue to slaughter the same type and number of food animals, and if all the additional cost is passed on to the consumer, the impact will be moderate. We are talking about an increase of 0.6% per catty. But this has not taken into account the reduction of license fees. We believe the change will be just have a moderate effect. And after the fee revisions, we are going to increase our revenue by $46 million per annum. We will table the legislative amendments in the current legislative session. And after that, the FHD would also review the fee levels annually and make revisions as and when necessary. Members, questions? Under Secretary, you said that the fees for NT facilities remain the same since 1997? What about urban facilities? The same. They have remained the same since 1997. and you want to have full cost recovery, we want to adjust the different fee items to reflect the actual operation. I haven't heard you clearly which fees would go down. License fees for new application and for existing license renewal. So the renewal fee will be reduced significantly because we don't have any new slaughterhouses. Yes, the reduction is from 80 to 90%. Dr. Hannah Wong, do you support? I think this question is about: do you support it? Do you support the administration? They want to get $40 million. I will reserve my questions later. All right. If there's no question raised, then I will have to conclude the item. The presentation has been made. No one wants to ask question, then I would have to put the question to you. Do you support the fee increases? Can you tell us once again the reasons for making the revisions? Well, they want to have they want to follow the user pays principle, and the fees have remained the same since 1997. And they now want to get more money.
capacity，即係嗰個
I want to ask a question about the slaughterhouses capacity in terms of the number of food animals that they can handle. Do you have any operation data? I'll defer to my colleague from the FPHD, Mr. Yim. If we look at Shangshui slaughterhouse, pigs, cattle, and sheep, it's something like 4,000. Do you have breakdown for different slaughterhouses? Chunwan slaughterhouse 2,000. In capacity. How much are handled? 400 odd. I visited some slaughterhouses. Well, you are very brave. It's tough. It's a tough job. They are now only handling 450 pigs, and the capacity is 2,000. So it's underutilized. The capacity is underutilized, or not fully utilized. Are they making a profit? Or just breaking even? Can they maintain the operation by just slaughtering 400 odd pigs? Will the slaughterhouses be forced out of business with the fee increases? I think the administration would say that no one would come forward to bid for the contract. I don't know. It's a commercial operation, but they are still in operation. Do you know they are making a profit or not? Well, this is a business. Perhaps I should explain why the capacity is not fully utilized.
人士決定將啲豬係送去上水屠房或者係荃灣屠房咧，其實係有佢哋嘅考慮啦。
Well, they different factors are at play. Whether one would use the Shangshui slaughterhouse or other slaughterhouses. Shangshui is closer to the mainland, so the wastage will be lower if ships are handled by Shangshui slaughterhouse. So that makes sense. And Chunwan slaughterhouse is competitive in terms of fees. I think we should allow the market to make their own decisions. I think the government should give us more figures. There are 3 licensed slaughterhouses. What is the business that they are doing? How many animals do they slaughter? There may be an uneven distribution. For the Chunwan slaughterhouse, they only slaughter 450 pigs. What about Xiangshui and Changchao slaughterhouses? What is their capacity? And what are the numbers that they are handling? Is there only one factor affecting the operations? The distance involved? We need to know the business that the 3 slaughterhouses are doing, and then we can tell the impact on the 3 licensees. Well, we need the civil servants because we have to get more information than just an assertion that the fees have remained the same since 1997. Well, we need to revise the fees because the administration would like to recover the costs under the user pays principle. There are 2 categories here: license fees and examination fees. The fees charged by the slaughterhouses are outside the scope of this exercise. The fees levied by the operators are based on the cost and other business considerations. As I've said, we are going to reduce the license fee by 80 to 95%. We are going to increase the examination fees. Annually, we have 1.8 million pigs slaughtered in these facilities. And if we divide the total cost of this exercise, $46 million, it means 24 cents for each catty of pork.
That's the impact of the $46 million. We believe that's a moderate increase. Undersecretary, perhaps we should give Mr. Wong some more information. For the 3 operators, given this adjustment or proposed adjustment, we've contacted them, and they did not object to the proposal. The adjustment items are now changed to reflect more the actual circumstances. Mr. Chairman, can the Undersecretary give us information on Shanghai slaughterhouse? How many pigs can be slaughtered in terms of capacity and how many they're slaughtering every day now? Well, they have made full use of their capacity. What about Chunwan? Not yet. What about Shangshui and Chunwan? Changchao, 500. What about the present number? 15. 15 out of 500. What about Chunwan? 5,000. Shangshui, 5,000. And now around 4,700. What about Chunwan? 2,000. Now 400. License fees will be decreased, but slaughtering fee and inspection fee will rise, so that will result in $40 million more. So how will the 3 operators be impacted upon? Have you analyzed the impact? Well, if all costs are transferred to the operators, each catty of pork will see a rise of 24 cents. That is an increase of 24 cents per catty of pork. I hope that the Bureau will give us a supplementary paper. Do they have to go to the Finance Committee? Yes. will amend the subsidiary legislation. That's why we'll have to come back to electrical. So, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put on record that if they are to go to FC, they have to let us know why apparently Shanghai is monopolizing the market and Qinwan only a quarter, Changchao even more laughable, 15 pigs per day. Is it that you should revoke the license of some of these operators? Dr. Wong, this is not the issue. Where every time they put up the licenses for tendering, and very often they only had one bidder. We asked them who the operators are. Shangshui, Changchao, maybe the same company. As far as I know, that's not the case. Under Secretary? Well, if members want to know the company names, Mr. Yim can help. This has nothing to do with monopoly. Let me say this. We don't need to go to the FC. Well, but we need a resolution. Yes, we have to amend the law in the form of subsidiary legislation. So it will be a resolution moved in the House Committee. So it's negative vetting. Correct. So you discuss with the industry, right? They're saying that not many people are scolding them, but in future many people will scold them. Members of the public will complain about this rise of about 30 cents. I'm duty-bound to ask whether there's any objection from the political parties. Major political parties, DAB, any objection to the proposed increases? Oh, you're from the FTU, sorry. Well, when I first knew you, you're with the DAB. Civic Party, Democratic Party, we have reservation for the moment. Civic Party, no comment. You don't represent the Civic Party? And People Power, sorry, am I correct? Oh, I tried my luck and I was correct. No comment. As we don't have anybody from the Liberal Party, I have to say that the Liberal Party has huge reservation over this. Well, we won't put up any objection if you're talking about decreases. But for increases, 20-odd cents per catty may sound minimal, but cumulatively, the effect may be huge. Well, you have not been increasing the fees after 1997. Why are you doing this now? Mr. Wong Kwok Hing is here. We're comrades back then. We always oppose increases. So all political parties will oppose any proposal for increases in license fees. So the Liberal Party has huge reservation over this proposal. No objection to decreases, but huge reservation over increases because you may end up with rising retail prices. All right, final item on the agenda, review on fees for cemeteries and crematoria services provided by the Food and Environmental Hygiene Department. We have a different team of officials. All HQ members have been invited to this discussion. The Secretariat has prepared a background brief for us. It's paper 773, bracket 06. Under Secretary, are you ready? Mr. Chairman, the background of this item is the same as that for the last item. Now, this is a review on the fees and charges for facilities and services. Now, we're talking about the cost recovering fees at the moment. The level is very low at the moment. It's 18% only. And we don't propose a one-off exercise. So we propose a phased exercise in 3 years' time in order to recover costs, such that the recovery rate will be 50%, 75%, and 100% in the first, second, and third year, respectively. For 3 items, we propose no change in the fees. And when the FEHD is reviewing the situation, we'll take the opportunity to streamline the procedures so as to reduce operational costs. And when we calculate costs, the efficacy of the improvement measures and shortening processing time will be taken into account. With the proposed adjustments, the government will have increased revenue, but that is to offset the losses related to relevant services. $2 to $1 million are involved at the moment. As with the last item, we need to amend the subsidiary legislation, and we propose to introduce the legislation to this council in this legislative session. 3 colleagues have raised their hands. Now we have to finish by 5 p.m. Wong Kwok Heng, Chan Chi Chun, Chang Lai Wan. Who else? We have a long meeting today. So, 3 minutes per member, including questions and answers. Please proceed as quickly as possible. Mr. Chairman, I object to the hefty increases. It's really too hefty. And for crematorial services, it's not reasonable to have this phased increases. $1,900, more than 1.55 times for the first increase. For the second increase, absolute figure $3,700, 2 odd times, almost 3 times. Third increase, almost 4.5 times. How can the administration effect such hefty increases? The elderly people won't die in peace. If we make adjustments in accordance with the annual inflation rate, it's acceptable. But now, for the phased increases over 3 years, the eventual increase will be 4.39 times the original. For public cemetery, for the handling of remains, the fee will also be almost doubled. As regards placing of plaques in Garden of Remembrance, the increase proposed is also hefty. Under Secretary, under the cost recovery principle, we're actually suffering from a deficit at the moment. For cremation, fees have not been increased since 1996-97. At that time, the cost recovery rate was on the low side. It's 18% only. Why? It's because previously more people were buried rather than cremated. Now we would like to encourage cremation. In that case, it's necessary for us to recover costs. The previous incentives are no longer there. Under Secretary, let me tell you my position. I oppose these increases. you've not been effecting any increase for 10 odd years. If you increase the fees and charges in accordance with inflation rates, it's more acceptable. So we strongly oppose your proposal because you're being too unreasonable. It seems that the earlier you die, the better. So the FTU opposes the increases. Mr. Chen Chi-chun, I strongly oppose this proposed crazy increases. The increase percentages are high. Nowhere for burial, not enough niches for urns, and now you're increasing fees and charges for cremation. Well, you see, it's only once in a lifetime. So equality is the principle. Why should you adopt the user pays principle? Is our government so poor? Well, you will still have a deficit of $2 to $1 million after all these increases. Yesterday, in the Welfare Services panel, we heard that adoption fees are to be increased. Yes, the actual amount is just a few $1,000s. It's once in a lifetime. But having been a Hong Kong citizen, Hong Kong resident for so many years, should you be so harsh on me? All right. Now you have no space for burial, so you encourage cremation. Can you have free cremation or cremation at a discount? Under Secretary, I'd like to thank Mr. Chan for his views. I already informed members of our principle. Let me reiterate that if any person cannot afford such fees and charges, for example, the CSSA recipients, the Labour and Welfare Bureau can offer a funeral subsidy or allowance. And for those who have financial difficulties, they can receive assistance. So do you mean that if I spend all my money before my death, then I won't be subject to means test? I will enjoy free services, right? I refer to CSSA recipients. Oh, I think I should count my days and then spend all my money before my death. Then I can receive CSSA and get free services. Same for slaughterhouses. Dr. Chung Lai-wan, Mr. Chairman, I think the Undersecretary is really too bold this time in proposing such hefty increases. Well, cremation, $90 to $1,220 in 3 years' time. That's to be increased to $6,000. This is really a hefty increase. I understand that the intention of the government is to fill the treasury, the public coffers, with more money. But our public coffers are already flooded with money. If you are going to provide more services, it will be easier to get these proposals passed. Now, our public coffers are flooded with money. I think you should give people the feeling that they can die comfortably. And Undersecretary, you mentioned those who are in need of assistance, the grassroots who can enjoy exemption. So, Undersecretary, can you give us the promise first. Under what circumstances can we enjoy an exemption? Or are you telling us that for this once-in-a-lifetime service, we still have to undergo means tests? And the Secretary, would you please tell us why, when the Treasury is already flooded with money, the government is still trying to grab money from the public? And the Secretary? Under the cost recovery principle, the existing fees and charges are on the low side. So, the proposed increases sound hefty because we're now trying to recover full costs. Still, we are honest. For the existing fees and charges and proposed fees and charges, certain items will see a reduction. And for CSSA recipients, they are entitled to funeral expenses. We'll discuss with the LWB to see whether there's a chance for adjustment.
支持啊！
我哋希望咧就係局長咧就考慮咧就收翻呢份文件先。
I hope the Undersecretary would take this paper back first.
稍為再拉長少少。
And also, can you sort of reduce the rate of increase? And for those who cannot afford to pay.
家庭嘅話咁呢種情況就真正係如何處理咧？咁有個明確嘅答覆，唔該。
Please give up a definite answer. Are you going to ask them to retract the paper and not submit it again? Dr. Kenneth Chan. Well, to answer your question, the Civic Party is strongly against the proposal. As you have said, the earlier you die, the more affordable it may be. The rate of increase is staggering. And we have asked questions about whether for the poor you are going to provide some waiver. Well, those people may then wish to donate their bodies to medical schools so that their families would be spared the expenses. For those who volunteer to donate their bodies to medical schools, perhaps you should pay the families. And should we make calculations on such basis where everyone, all people, die someday? And in Hong Kong, there is little welfare to speak of. The government should reconsider. You have to expect a lot of repercussion. It's not just a question of policy. It also goes to people's emotional response. You cannot just say that it's cost recovery. I don't think this is persuasive. Do you really think that the public would go along this principle, user pays principle, or cost recovery principle? Our government is by no means poor. It collects a lot of tax, and you still want to talk about cost recovery? Are you serious? Well, they are serious. I cannot accept this, and I don't think the public or Chairman, you would accept this. Please don't try to push it. I think this is going to be opposed by my party strongly. You have to forget it. Dr. Helena Wong. I've read this paper And my friends who have read this are all saying that the government is asking for a lot. Instead of 1,200, you want them to pay $6,000, $605,000. But that's the cost of many the burials sacrifices. The Democratic Party is not going to accept this. Many people are still waiting for niches in columbarium. Can you promise that if they pay this fee for cremation, you are going to provide them with niches within a certain number of years? No, you can't do this. People have there's a long waiting list. If you can do, you can provide more niches in 3 years' time. Maybe people would agree to the fee increase. Now people have no choice, but to ask funeral service providers to keep the ashes and niches of private columbariums are very costly, hundreds of thousands of dollars each. And there's no way to rest in peace for the dead. And now, with niches in short supply, you want to increase cremation fee so drastically. I think that there will be a public outcry. Unless you can promise to my party that you will be able to provide niches within a certain number of years after the deceased has died. We also have a timetable on the supply of columbarium niches. And in certain districts, some new niches are in the pipeline, but we understand that it takes a long lead time to increase the numbers. But we are going to provide niches. I hope you can give us a pledge, performance pledge, and link the increase in cremation fee with the supply of niches. Because if they can get niches at low prices, well, they may be willing to propose the cremation fee. Well, for a change, I want to say something about this. I have views on fees for slaughterhouses. And I have been saying this for more than 10 years. This user pays principle is a cheat. You are just trying to get more money, get a higher revenue. For 18 years, since 1997, when we still had the 2 municipal councils, at that time you could not increase the fee. During the SARS outbreak, we have deficits. We had deficits, and still you did not increase the fee. And now you want to do the same. You want to do this based on the cost recovery principle. I don't think anyone will be in support of this proposal. So I can tell you that you are going to face difficulties when you table your resolution. All right, I wrap up this item under item 7 AOB. We have nothing, so meeting's adjourned.